Ah. Ah. I think I'm going to edit that a little differently and take out the middle, so I'm just going to say the straw part again. That each of us is born a clear straw. I don't need to say it again, never mind. I'll edit it as best I can. Anjana said, I brought my teenage son to First Saturday in San Francisco, not only to continue the ripple, but to open his mind even more. Thank you for sending the waves out. Thank you! That's so awesome. The 3-year-old nephew joined in the hug. All right. Thank you, Glowwind Hama. So, what time is it? 1:34. You know, oops, didn't mean to do that. Alan Watts talks about that, you know, the path of being a human is being, you know, pure. Then you are educated, and there's by no fault of anyone who socializes you, your parents and your teachers, they're all well-meaning. They're all trying to equip you for living in the culture that exists. But the challenge is that we have this assumption that the culture that exists, you know, is what should be. And that's a pretty big assumption, that the way things are is the way they should be. And that we should spend our energy to try to shape our thinking to be best suited for this culture. This culture is cancerous. This culture has all sorts of unhealthy attitudes about the environment, about fellow man. I mean, when we have enough resources to keep everyone fed, and yet so many people die of starvation and malnutrition and curable diseases, that's a sickness. There's something wrong. So, if instead we get to a place of socialization, we become a functional person in society through all of our education and well-meaning teachers, and then we go, wait, okay, I've got the role down that I play in this grand theater. Now, who's beneath the mask? And then the rest of our lives is the spiritual practice of questioning our beliefs, peeling away, whether it's a childhood trauma of being teased when this happened, or a disapproving glance from our father when we did this, and all of these things, and fears and insecurities, and until we are this clear straw. No, you're never really going to be a clear straw. A lot of teachers say that, well, when you become a clear straw, then you have to make the choice. Do I evaporate into pure light, or do I return as a teacher, as a bodhisattva, and then try to instruct others? I think it's more realistic to try to have moments of clarity. Occasional times when we feel the divine flow through us purely. And when I visualize the divine flowing through, I visualize that straw being dipped in a stream. And with the stream being the cosmic, divine, loving flow of the universe. The unfolding, the perfect unfolding of all that is. And if your straw is clear, the divine flows right through you. And that's when you create artistically, that's when you meet the right people, that's when all the things happen perfectly. And life is just like this ride of magic. Being at Burning Man feels like that a lot. But even, that's, I should be careful how I say this, because I've often believed that the goal of the spiritual path is to minimize the down cycle times. Make them shorter, less intense, and less frequent. But I was challenged this weekend by someone who said, do you need those moments of suffering? She said, I'm just asking, is it possible that you continue to have these down cycles because you believe you need them? You need to have these funks and these cycles of depression or whatever they are, so that you stay connected and so that people can receive and hear and understand better. But let me just propose that you know what that feels like, and you don't need to keep experiencing it in order to be empathetic and understand what someone else is going through. It's like, well, that's an interesting thought. Do I continue to have down cycles because my story requires it? Then again, my belief about humanity is that being a human being is all about cycles. A duality of human consciousness is the ride, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang. Without soft, there is no hard. Can you live in bliss if there is no pain? She seemed to believe that that was possible. So I will be open to that. One of my thoughts was, well, this person, while I consider her to be an incredible light worker and someone who's taught me a lot of things, is not fully accessible to everyone because she is so bubbly and light. I know that, my father, for example, and even most people I know, would have trouble receiving what she has to say in the manner that she says it. And so am I worried that if I get too woo-woo, that I will no longer be able to communicate? And so do I force myself to suffer so that I can stay connected? Suffer is maybe a strong word. But I do visualize myself very much as a bridge in many ways. People that have not gone to Burning Man, I try to be a voice that can be understood by someone who hasn't been there, and bridging two ways of thinking. And in spiritual ways, I see myself that way too. I mean, I meet people all the time that are way deeper, farther in their spiritual practice than me. But I don't think that my role is unique in that, for me, that's, my bliss, my joy is in a bridge role. I'm talking through this. I'm not really sure what it means or where it goes, but it was a fantastic weekend, and I am in that vibration of gratitude and for all of it, even the down parts of the cycles. Thank you. All right, let me pay attention to the chat room a little bit. Sorry. Brady was being a bridge between a high-tech guy describing his installation and an artist who had no clue about technology. Wait, how old is the little guy hugging? Very like the dental analogy. I didn't mean anything by it. 3. Wow. 2. Orion the burner baby, yes! What a beautiful, beautiful being. I had an interesting, at the airport, I ran into an old friend, and she was visiting her father who's had a stroke. He's in his late 70s, and so he can't communicate verbally or written, but he's lucid, so he can watch TV, he can read books, he just can't communicate. I was like, wow, can you imagine? And she says he's got a good sense of humor, and he does amazingly well considering how frustrating the situation that was. And I was like, it's interesting, because I just had an experience with my nephew who struggles with some vowels and some consonants, and so he was trying to tell me the flavor of ice cream that he got. He got some chocolate and some tao. I'm like, what was the second flavor? Tao. I'm like, taro? No, tao with an ah. I'm like, so I found out later he meant tart, but it was an interesting perspective on how, on both sides of this life spectrum. We're these beings that were struggling to have their body communicate what their mind was thinking. I, on the other hand, let my body communicate things that I don't understand what I'm talking about, which is similar but different. Shoot, Brady, I did see you right when I walked in, and I was at the DCOM, and I was a little overwhelmed. Oh, your kid was overwhelmed. Oh, he and I both were overwhelmed. Your little guy was adorable. Saki, you like the sorry, am I pronouncing that right or wrong again? So I'm much like my nephew in that my verbal abilities names are not my strong point. Sachi, thank you. I had fun at the talk at DCOM. It was some of the things that I talked about today. Some of the things that I talked about today are actually, I'm trying to put together a talk for high school students. And so some of these topics that I've been chewing on about being yourself, and one of the topic of the day, if you still want to chime in on the Hugnation Facebook page, is, have you ever worn something or done something with your hair that you did to be cool? And I'm specifically trying to think of things that were, now you look back and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I... so we'll read those tonight at happy hour. But, I want to talk to some high school kids and address that phenomenon of and I think I'm also going to be like, look, I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect you to sing in because you're so deep in it, but I'm going to tell you anyways in case, in case this resonates at all. Let me just say that you are so deep in the chapter of your life where you're trying to be something that you're not. Well, take that back. You're trying to be something. It may or may not be what you are. But that challenge of trying to be something versus allowing yourself to be, once you see the difference, it makes all the difference in the world. Because if you're trying to be something and you fail, and somebody judges you, you failed, and they're judging, and you've done something wrong, and it hurts. But if you just are, and then someone doesn't like you, well, that has nothing to do with you. You can't fail at being you. You can only do it well or not be yourself. But if you're yourself, and then someone says, oh my gosh, you like Dungeons and Dragons? You're like, I love it. Well, okay, you don't like people that do Dungeons and Dragons. I'm wired to like Dungeons and Dragons. If you don't like it, take it up with the guy upstairs. Take it up with the universe. Take it up with my genetics, my biology. It has nothing to do with me. And that can be a really liberating place. I'm not sure if a high school student will be able to resonate with that. I know some are, but some can, because I remember being in high school, junior high actually, and in one of my classes, my friend Paul, he would go to the thrift store and buy the craziest, most mismatching clothes he could and wear it. And I was like, God, I'm so impressed with his courage. People teased him, people thought he was weird, and I think he was aware that has nothing to do with me. I think that's why he did it, In the same way that I cultivated the Halcyon persona and look and hair is because if you make a point of being something unique, and like I try to be a category of one, then I get to define what it is, and if you don't like it, you can't judge it because I've defined what it is. I'm doing it. I'm actually a perfect Halcyon. I get 100%. I get an A++ at being Halcyon. You might not like Halcyon, but that's whatever. Now, if I try to be a singer, well, that's a bad example. If I want to be a b-boy and I wear the wrong kind of clothes, or my slang is wrong, and I'm trying to be this role, and somebody starts to go, oh my god, dude, that is so last week. Then my face gets flushed and I get embarrassed. So, who here played Dungeons and Dragons or still does? No judgment. I did. I was a double plus good paladin. I had, enchanted Warple Blade for a while. Every Friday. Ruby Doobie Doo says, I used to change to each setting and the people I was around. That was so lonely. Oh, what an observation. What a powerful observation that is. And, I think as you grow and you get older, you realize that, having 100 friends that like the person you're trying to be is a few drops compared to a full glass of what a couple of true friends who love you for who you are is. And when push comes to shove, the ones that like you for what you're trying to be, that's why they leave and abandon you and betray you the minute your true selves and your true needs come out. Sachi says, being myself was originally such a hardship. I hated my name. And eventually myself became a lot more fun. A lot of... There's a gift in being an outcast early on. It doesn't feel like it. In fact, sometimes there was a period of time when I identified really well with gay and lesbians because there's an inherent chapter of struggle and self-analysis. I mean, that's kind of the most obvious example of having to pretend something to be something. I mean, many, if not all, gay and lesbians at some point are trying to be what they think they're supposed to be, but everything in them is going, that's not who you are. You're going, I want to fit in. I want to be normal. I don't want to be teased. That's not who you are. And so when you have to go through that process of going, okay, this is what I am. And some people go, rah! And you go, again, take it up with the guy upstairs. But that is the modern warrior. That is the hero's journey of spirit. Is saying, the dragon is the judgment of the world. And it's the alignment with your truth. That is the, saving the princess from the castle. Does that metaphor work? I think it does. I have to write that down. Well, and the thing about the gay and lesbian example is that it's such a strict thing that, I think once you know it, you know it. A lot of things about the path of who you are, it can get really hard to figure out, is this me? Am I feeling this because my parents felt this way? How many people here vote the way their parents did? I think I read somewhere that most people do. Most people go to the churches their parents did. Some people rebel, but the strongest, most powerful influencer is our upbringing. And so as we go through life, I find myself all the time going, where is this coming from? Is this Dad's judgment? Is this a rebellion against Dad's judgment? Is this my heart? Is this when Randy Jacobs teased me in 4th grade? I can remember being in 3rd grade, going to the bathroom between classes, and Randy Jacobs jumping up on top of the stall as I was going number 2. Looking down on me, he's 2 years older, yelling and laughing and staring at my little penis. I was not equipped to say back to him, well, this is who I am. Instead, I never pooed again. Well, I certainly didn't at school. And I was afraid of Randy Jacobs and people, and embarrassed about my penis for the longest time. It wasn't until recently that I realized that, 12 inches is actually quite large. I'm kidding. Anybody have any things that are burning in their mind, that they have a question or something that happened this week that they want me to give a few thoughts about? I think I'm going to try to start doing that if the timing is right, to kind of open the last few minutes for a question or two. I love answering questions, or because I realized that after 10 years of doing a weekly show, I've thought about so many things that if you jog my memory and ask a question, I probably have some thoughts about it. Your mom's a conspiracy theorist. Or is she? Maybe she's acting like a conspiracy theorist to try to force you to be anti-conspiracy theorist. See, you're hook, line, and sinker. You believe it. Wow, you're under the spell. I'm just kidding. I got to admit, I sometimes get very attracted to conspiracy theories too. But I was just having a conversation with Piety that I'm all for whatever. If the story makes you feel good, even if it's making sense of the world, good. If the story is making you uncomfortable or suffer, and it's not driving you to action, like if you go, oh my gosh, Monsanto is controlling everything, I need to start writing my congressman, good. If you say Monsanto is covering this, and so you don't want to get out of bed or eat anything except for your own fingernails, then it's time to let go a little bit of that story until you can function a little bit more and enjoy the present. I don't think we're intended to suffer to the state of. I think we can walk a path of change while still being happy. I didn't have to get angry to turn around to the guy and tell him stop. I simply noticed, thought there should be a change, and then acted on it. Yeah, the bank, the world, the Rothschilds. Google, do YouTube on Rothschild. Spend the night watching those videos and see if you can sleep for the next week. Or chemtrails. And it goes back to the topic of the day. Is you walk your walk. And as you realign, sometimes those are bigger and bigger and bigger things. Some people think that First Saturdays is this like grand act, and be like, wow, thank you for doing it. I'm like, it's just a couple hours a month. Maybe, it's not that big a deal. But there was a time when it would have been a huge deal to me. So that what now is considered to be a minor act was once major. And so, maybe in 5 years, I'll be like, oh, saving this forest before breakfast? It's nothing. But I think the focusing on direction, not distance, is a big part of not letting the stories freak you out and take away the gift of the now. Starby wants to know about the Buddha Doodle. Isn't that cool? So Buddha Doodles is a series done by a woman named Molly Cools, who does these adorable illustrations of the Buddha or other characters with sayings and quotes. And there's, I think, one a day. And I got to know her online recently, and then met her at Burning Man. And then she said a friend of hers was such a big fan of Love More, Fear Less, Float More, Steer Less, that she wanted to do a Buddha Doodle for it. And so today's Buddha Doodle is me. Can we pop that up? Isn't that cute? It's so cute. It's me wearing the. I should have dressed that way today. It's the scarf and the pinstripes and the vest. Giving a self hug. I'm pretty stoked on that. That is like a fuzzy Academy Award. I'm very honored. Yes, I am. So if you get a chance, check out her series. Check out subscribe to her on Facebook or her feed. She also is in the Huffington Post. They publish her stuff. It's they're great quotes, and the pictures just make them really adorable. And I'm again very tickled pink to be included. I've been using that a lot lately as people. I've noticed people when I see somebody who's written about like my TEDx talk and on their blog, and I'll put a comment, and I sometimes can't avoid saying, "Oh, I'm tickled pink that you like it." You know, it's just a low hanging fruit, and I'm guilty. Strawberry Skycat says the vaccine argument has merit on both sides. I agree, but what the interesting thing about that argument is that it is definitely not black and white, because there are things that, like Jenny McCarthy went on this huge tirade about how her kid developed these ailments because of vaccines, and then after a few years it was re-diagnosed as something else. And it's like, well, you were pretty aggressive about the truth, and now we are pretty clear that was a misunderstanding. And there's certain studies that people use as being, this is the proof, and then later people go, oh man, the person who did that study was so motivated to warp their data. It's like, well, and the problem is, there's also people who are very motivated to disprove the person who disproved it. So it's like, that's why I make my own vaccines. So, if you need a flu shot, sorry, I was going to go to a bad place. Is it past 2? Okay. Yeah, my flu shots are given penally. No, I'm kidding. I just spit in your mouth. Has everyone seen the South Park where they try to give all the kids chicken pox? And so then the kids, once they realize that the parents were intentionally getting them sick, they decide to get back at them, and so they find a local prostitute who's got herpes, and they get her to try on all of the parents' underwear and use their toothbrush, and so all of the parents get herpes as a payback for infecting. It's funny when Cartman does it. It is 2 o'clock, which means it's probably time for some of us to get back to our default worlds. Let me reiterate. Let me be very clear. This moment of recalibration, this weekly gift of sharing this moment, is the most grand treasure in my life. Outside of the people and the loved ones and the relationships, but in terms of the experiences that I have made a part of my life, this is the longest relationship that I've had with anyone outside of my family, is with this community and with this experience and with this commitment to realignment, to integrity, and to love. So thank you for being a part of it. Have an amazing week. Maybe I'll see you tonight at happy hour, or at LADCom, or at the Goddess Gathering, which hook up with me and ask me about it if you want to know details on the Goddess Gathering this Saturday and Sunday in San Diego. Or 2 weeks from now, or 2 weekends from now, is San Diego DCOM, which is a long 3-4 day camping experience, which is epic. if you've not been to Burning Man and you want a tip a toe into what it kind of feels like in a very small way, but way more than anything else that you can experience on the West Coast, come to DCOM. If you need any information about it, let me know, and I'll do my best to help. I love you. Have an amazing week.